25. After that, the House also resumed work in the Committee of Supply, where supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2025 were considered, and these were reported without amendment. We expect report stage to be considered today, Wednesday, 9th July 2025.
After that, there was a consideration of a motion which was moved by Mr. Fred Chatila, Member of Parliament. The motion was about the Planning and Budgeting Committee, and this motion was adopted.
Okay, and basically in a nutshell, that was the business that was considered on the floor of the House on Friday, 4th July 2025. So we now take a look at the business that we expect the House to consider this afternoon. We also have the national anthem, the prayer, announcements if there will be any. Thereafter, we have a ruling that is going to be rendered. After that, we expect urgent matters without notice to be raised. And then we have questions for oral answer, understanding order number 80. These are questions of an ordinary nature. And this afternoon's question will be posed by Chadiza Member of Parliament, Mr. Jonathan Daka, directed at the Minister of Agriculture. In a summary, he wants to know how many civil servants applied for loans under the Sustainable Agriculture Finance Facility for the 2023-2024 farming season in Chadiza district. He also wants to know how many applicants were granted loans, and then the last part of the applicants that were who were granted loans, how many paid back the loans as of December 2024. So that's the question that is going to be considered under Standing Order number 80, and this is a question for oral answer.
After that, we do expect the House to consider questions for written answer, and this is provided for Understanding Order 81. Now, because of its nature, it is bulk, so the Member of Parliament will be provided with the answers. After that, we do expect a private member's motion. Madam Terfedide.
Okay, so this private member's motion will be moved by Mr. Fulvich, Living Member of Parliament, and his motion is to reintroduce debt swap for civil servants. That this House urges the government to reintroduce debt swap for civil servants. So that's the private member's motion that will be moved later on this afternoon.
Thereafter, we do expect the House to consider a ministerial statement, which is expected to be rendered by the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security on the protection of members of Parliament from online exploitation and scamming.
Okay, then thereafter we expect consideration of the report on the supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2025, and then we expect another motion by Mr. Lufusha, and this is to adopt the report of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, that the House adopts the report of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs on the review of the management of operations of the Office of the Public Protector for the 4th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 3rd July 2025.
Thereafter, there will be consideration of the Closed Circuit Television Public Protection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2025, to be considered at third reading stage. And remember, you can as well access this order paper by visiting the National Assembly of Zambia website, www.parliament.gov.za.
Okay, so that is basically business that we expect in the House today. But just to mention that you can watch our Parliament TV on various platforms. If you have the Go DSTV, you can catch our Parliament TV on channel 272. You can also watch our Parliament TV on Go TV, that is on channel 28. And then if you have using a Top Star decoder, you can catch Parliament TV on channel 5. And you can also follow deliberations on the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page and National Assembly of Zambia YouTube page. So there we have it on our screens, Madam Speaker's procession making its way to the chamber. And now we leave you with the live deliberations. Enjoy watching Parliament TV, the station that is dedicated.
Members of Parliament, Madam Speaker. Yeah.
sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our rights. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by those who blend. Let us all our people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry, dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. All the honorable members, I have 3 announcements to make and 1 ruling. The first announcement, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Mambo Secondary School in Pemba District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may take your seats. The second announcement, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Top Notch Academy in Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may take your seats. The next announcement, honorable members, you may be aware that over the past few days, there have been reports that confrontations erupted at Kikongem Gold Mine in Mufumbwe District, which is northwestern province, between alleged illegal miners and the police, which regrettably resulted in loss of life. In this regard, I would like to inform the House that I have permitted the Honourable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security to issue a ministerial statement tomorrow, Thursday, 10th July 2025, and inform the House and the nation at large regarding the happenings in Mufumbwe district. We sincerely convey our deepest condolences to the bereaved family. I thank you. Honorable members, the ruling. This is a ruling on a point of order raised on Tuesday, 1st July 2025 by Mr. Mubita Anakoka, Member of Parliament for Luena constituency, on whether the House was in order to remain silent in light of the Constitutional Court's pronouncements declaring the constitutional making process as unconstitutional. Honorable members, the House will recall that on Tuesday, 1st July 2025, when the House had just finished considering urgent matters without notice, Mr. Mubita Anakoka, Member of Parliament for Luena Parliamentary Constituency, raised a point of order premised on the powers of Parliament to legislate as provided for under Part 14 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024. And in particular, Standing Order 108. The point of order was raised in the following terms, and I quote, "Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, the people of Luena, as you know, do not rise on points of order unless they are compelled to do so. In this case, the point of order is also contemporaneous. Madam Speaker, the point of order I am raising on is anchored on the entire Chapter 14 of the Standing Orders, but with the specific reference to Standing Order 108. However, as a way of anchoring what I want to raise as a point of order, allow me just to highlight that Article 62 of the Constitution establishes Parliament, and Article 62(2) expressly vests legislative powers in this Parliament. Article 77 further empowers this House to regulate its own procedures and processes. As part of that self-regulation, this House has standing orders. It is in this respect that I refer to the entire Chapter 14 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024. Standing Order 108 specifically makes reference to Article 79, which is specifically about the procedures and processes to be followed when this House seeks to amend the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. Madam Speaker, while this House was engaged in a process as prescribed in and empowered by the Constitution in Article 79, we closed the week with some breaking news coming from another arm of the government in the form of the Constitutional Court, which pronounced that the processes that were underway in the House were unconstitutional. Madam Speaker, is this House in order to keep quiet when, while it was in the process of discharging its constitutional mandate, another arm of government declared the process unconstitutional? This usurpation of powers on such a serious issue has the potential to impact negatively the constitutional order of this country in terms of the separation of powers. Is this House therefore in order to keep quiet when there is such a pronouncement, which has far-fetching consequences in terms of the ability of this House to execute its constitutional mandate? Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling on this matter. End of quote. In my immediate response, I reserved my ruling in order to start the matter. I have since started the matter and will now render my ruling. Honorable members, the point of order raises the issue of one arm of government interfering with the operations of functioning of another arm of government. Before I delve into the merits of this point of order, I wish to inform the House that ordinarily, a point of order raised against the House would not be sustained. This position is fortified by the ruling of the erstwhile Speaker, Right Honorable Justice Dr. Patrick Mutti, State Counsel, on a point of order raised by Dr. M. Malama, the then Member of Parliament for Kanchibia Parliamentary Constituency, against the House for allowing the exhibition of political colors. This is reported in daily parliamentary debates of Tuesday, 27 February 2018. In that ruling, the Speaker, Mutti, State Counsel, stated as follows, and I quote, "I wish to begin by guiding the House that a point of order cannot be raised against the House. This is because the purpose of a point of order is to draw the Speaker's attention to a breach of the rules of the House by a member." End of quote. However, given the significance of the issue raised in the point of order by Mr. M. Anakoka MP, I exercise discretionary powers vested in me by Standing Order 141 to allow the point of order, and I will now proceed to render my ruling. Honorable members, the background to the point of order by Mr. M. Anakoka MP is that on Friday, 27th June 2025, the Constitutional Court rendered a judgment in the case of Munia Zulu and Celestine Mukandila versus the Attorney General 2025/CCZ/009. In that case, the petitioners, being unhappy with the ongoing constitutional reform process, filed a petition in the Constitutional Court seeking the court's determination of the following questions. 1. Whether Article 128 of the Constitution, as read together with Article 2, limits the power of the Constitutional Court to examine the constitutionality of a bill or actions taken to amend the Constitution until after the said bill or action materializes or crystallizes into an actual constitutional amendment. 2. Whether Article 128 of the Constitution, as read together with Article 2, limits the powers of the Constitutional Court to examine the constitutionality of a bill or actions taken to amend the Constitution by virtue of only merely mentioning the word bill. And 3, whether Article 128 of the Constitution, as read together with Article 2, allows the Constitutional Court to wait until the Constitution is mutilated before it assumes jurisdiction to prevent that overthrow. In this regard, the petitioners were seeking, among others, the following reliefs. 1, an order directing the respondent, namely the Minister of Justice through the Attorney General, to undertake wider consultations with the citizens of the Republic of Zambia prior to tabling the Constitution Amendment Bill. And 2, an order to stop the Minister of Justice through the respondent to halt any action or decision until after wide consultations. The Constitutional Court, after hearing the matter, granted the following reliefs. 1, we declare that the decision by the respondent to initiate a constitutional amendment process without wider consultations goes against the spirit of Articles 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 61, 90, 91, and 92 of the Constitution. 2, we order that the respondent complies with the spirit of the Constitution by ensuring a people-driven process led by an independent body of experts, including wider consultations with the people. Honorable members, it is important at this juncture to note that at the time Mr. Munia Zulu and Mr. Celestine Mukandila filed the petition in the Constitutional Court, there was no bill tabled in the National Assembly. However, at the time of the judgment, the legislative process in the National Assembly was already underway. As the House will recall, the Honorable Minister of Justice presented the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025 on Wednesday, 25th May 2025. Honorable members, in his point of order, Mr. M. Anakoka MP was asking whether this House was in order to keep quiet when, while it was in the process of discharging its constitutional mandate, another arm of the government declared the process unconstitutional. He said this in reference to the judgment of the Constitutional Court in the Munia Zulu case. He further stated that this usurpation of power on such a serious issue has the potential to impact negatively the constitutional order of this country in terms of separation of powers. The questions that this part of the point of order raise are, 1, whether the Constitutional Court did indeed declare the legislative process of Bill 7 unconstitutional, and 2, whether the Constitutional Court usurped the powers of the legislature. I've had the benefit of reading both the majority and minority judgments in the Munia Zulu case. My reading of the judgment reveals that, with regard to the first question above, the court did not declare the legislative process in the National Assembly of Zambia in enacting Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill number, National Assembly Bill 7 of 2025, popularly known as Bill 7, unconstitutional. The court addressed the constitutionality of the process prior to the presentation of Bill 7 in the National Assembly. Further, the court ordered that the respondent complies with the spirit, I underlined spirit there, emphasis mine, complies with the spirit of the Constitution by ensuring a people-driven process led by an independent body of experts, including wider consultations with the people. By ordering the respondent in this manner, the court was in essence ordering the respondent to stop the process which was already underway in the National Assembly. I will address this issue more intensely when dealing with the doctrine of exclusive cognizance. Honorable members, I am aware that there is currently a petition in the Constitutional Court between Isaac Mwanza and the Attorney General under cause number 2025/CCZ/0013. Among the reliefs being sought in this petition is a declaration that the decision of the court purporting to undermine the procedure process for initiating a constitutional amendment prior to the drafting of a bill in the absence of provisions in the Constitution and the law amounts to unlawful usurpation of legislative authority and executive authority, contrary to Article 62.2 and Article 91.2 of the Constitution, as read together with Section 22D of the Inquiries Act. Therefore, I will not delve into the issues of whether the Constitutional Court has usurped the legislative mandate of the National Assembly, as it is subjudice. However, I would like to take this opportunity to provide guidance on the sanctity of legislative process of this august House. Parliament is vested with the legislative authority by Part 6 of the Constitution. Specifically, Article 62 of the Constitution vests legislative authority in Parliament. For avoidance of doubt, Article 62 provides as follows, and I quote, 62.1. There is established the Parliament of Zambia, which consists of the President and the National Assembly. 2. The legislative authority of the Republic is vested in and exercised by Parliament. 3. A person or body other than Parliament shall not have power to enact legislation except as conferred by this Constitution. 4. A member of the National Assembly shall be referred as a member of Parliament. End of quote. Honorable members, the National Assembly has a far-reaching freedom to determine and regulate its internal procedures and proceedings. This is referred to as the exclusive cognizance of the House. The privilege of exclusive cognizance derives from both legislation and parliamentary practice. Article 77(1) of the Constitution empowers Parliament to regulate its own procedures and make standing orders for the conduct of its business. It provides as follows, and I quote, subject to this article and Article 78, the National Assembly shall regulate its own procedures and make standing orders for the conduct of its business. End of quote. Additionally, Section 34 of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, Chapter 12 of the Laws of Zambia provides as follows, and I quote, 34. Neither the Assembly, the Speaker, nor any officer shall be subject to the jurisdiction of any court in respect of the exercise of any power conferred on or vested in the Assembly, the Speaker, or such officer by or under the Constitution, the standing orders, and this Act. End of quote. Honorable members, the import of Article 77(1) of the Constitution, as read together with Section 34 of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, is that the National Assembly has the power and exclusive jurisdiction to conduct its internal affairs without interference from any external body, including the courts of law. There is an abundance of authorities confirming several judicial decisions that the courts have no jurisdiction and cannot interfere with the internal proceedings of the legislature. In the case of Hem Chandras, Sen Gupta, and others versus the Speaker of West Bengal Legislative Assembly, Air 1956, CLA 378-60-555. The Chief Minister of West Bengal had given notice to move a motion for the West Bengal Legislative Assembly to approve a proposal for the Union of States of West Bengal and Bihar. Opposed to the measure, the petitioners sought to restrain the Chief Minister from pursuing the motion. The petitioners also sought to restrain the Union of India from bringing any bill or legislation in Parliament for the purpose of uniting the two states. In resolving the issue, whether court process could be used to store an internal process of the Assembly, the court observed at paragraph 22 of the judgment as follows, and I quote, under the rules of procedure framed by the Assembly under Article 208, a member was at liberty to bring forward any resolution provided the rules were observed. It was for the Speaker of the House to allow or disallow such a resolution to be raised or discussed in the House. The courts could not at that stage seek to regulate the procedure of the House and arrogate to itself the powers of the Speaker. If, however, a law was passed or a resolution adopted or a motion carried which was not in accordance with the Constitution, such a law, resolution, or motion could be declared invalid by the court. End of quote. The court further held at paragraph 22 of the same page as follows, and I quote, "The Constitution lays down the respective jurisdictions of legislatures and the courts. It is the business of the legislature to make laws and of the courts to administer them. The powers, privileges, and immunities of the state legislatures and their members have been laid down in the Constitution. In such matters, and within their allotted spheres, they are supreme and cannot be called in to account by the courts of the land. The courts are therefore not interested in the formative stages of any law. Even where a law has been promulgated, it is not the duty of the court to act in a supervisory character and rectify the defects on its own motion." End of quote. In deciding the Gupta case, the court referred to the English case of the Queen versus Lords Commissioners of the Treasury, 1872, 7 Queen's Bench Division 387, where it was held that the legislature had the exclusive cognizance to decide its own affairs. Thus, in the Gupta case supra, the court adopted the statement of Blackburn J. as follows, and I quote, "I must observe in saying that there is not the slightest intention on my part to question the exclusive prerogative of the House of Commons in voting the money. As long as the thing remains to be made a resolution in the House, it could not, I believe, be brought properly before this court. But when the money has been voted, and the money has been granted, and an appropriation act has been passed, then it has become an act of the legislature, and we must construe it when it comes before us, as we should do any other act." End of quote. The import of the dicta by Blackburn J. cited above is in effect that no action can be commenced to challenge a process of the National Assembly before it is completed and a decision is made. Thus, any challenge must come after the decision is made. In addition, in the case of Bradlaugh versus Gossett, 1884, 12 Queen's Bench Division 271, the court was emphatic when it held that the House of Commons was not subject to the control of the courts in its administration of that part of statute law, which had a relation to its internal proceedings. Further, in Hamilton versus A.L. Fayad, 1999, 3 All England Law Reports 334, the House of Lords stated as follows, and I quote, "The principle is that the courts will not challenge or assault by any order of their own an assertion of authority issued by Parliament pursuant to Parliament's own procedures. This principle extends to acts and decisions of Parliament which are not part of the process of enacting primary legislation, such as the acts of PCS, CSP, and the House of Commons in this case. It flows from the court's recognition of Parliament's constitutional status as sovereign legislator. Once it has identified the subject matter of a dispute as falling within such process, the court will not proceed." End of quote. The House of Lords further stated as follows on the same page. "It must surely be for Parliament to lay down the procedures which are to be followed before a bill can become an act. It must be for Parliament to decide whether it is decreed procedures have in fact been followed. It must be for Parliament to lay down and construe its standing orders and further to decide whether they have been obeyed. It must be for Parliament to, in any particular case, dispense with compliance with such orders. It must be for Parliament to decide whether it is satisfied that an act should be passed in the form and with the wording set out in the act. It would be impracticable and undesirable for the High Court of Justice to embark on an inquiry concerning the effect or the effectiveness of the internal procedures of Parliament in the High Court, or whether, in any particular case, these procedures were effectively followed. End of quote. Honorable members, in the decision of Queen's Bench in Stockdale versus Hansard 3 State TRNS 748, the court held that the House of Commons had exclusive jurisdiction over its own internal proceedings. Coming back home, the principle of exclusive cognizance was acknowledged by the Constitutional Court in the case of Chishimba Kambwili versus Attorney General 2019/CC/009. In acknowledging the principle of exclusive cognizance, the court referred to both Article 77(1) of the Constitution and Section 34 of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act at page J31 in the following terms, and I quote, "We also note that by virtue of Article 77(1) of the Constitution, as read together with Section 34 of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, the National Assembly has exclusive power and jurisdiction over the conduct of its internal affairs." End of quote. Honorable members, the learned authors on parliamentary procedure and practice, M.N. Kao and S.L. Shakda, in their book entitled Practice and Procedure of Parliament, 7th edition, New Delhi, Metropolitan Book Company, PVT Limited, 2016, on page 249, state as follows, and I quote, "Parliament is sovereign within the limits assigned to it by the Constitution. There is an inherent right in the House to conduct its affairs without interference from an outside body. The House has also collective privilege to decide what it will discuss and in what order, without any interference from a court of law." End of quote. Oh, sorry, the court continues. "It is well known that no writ, direction or order restraining the Speaker from allowing a particular decision to be discussed or interfering with the legislative processes of either house of the legislature or interfering with the freedom of discussion or expression of opinion of either house can be entertained. The validity of any proceedings in Parliament cannot be called in question in any court on the ground of any irregularity of procedure." End of quote. Honorable members, it is thus abundantly clear from the foregoing authorities that as regards its internal proceedings, the National Assembly has exclusive jurisdiction and the courts cannot intervene. The reason for this is not far-fetched. It is to maintain the separation of powers so that the National Assembly conducts its matters without any interference from either the executive or the judiciary. This ensures that the National Assembly is not hindered in the performance of its duties by busy bodies who can rush into the courts to stop the proceedings of the House. If this absurd situation were to be allowed, the operations of the National Assembly would be paralyzed and ultimately fail to execute its constitutional mandate. Therefore, honorable members, the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, as promulgated by the powers granted to this House by the Constitution. To be precise, Part 14 of the Standing Orders prescribes the parliamentary legislative process, a process that is not outlined in any piece of legislation. Having said the foregoing, Standing Order 108 outlines the procedure that this House must follow when a bill to amend the Constitution is presented. The Standing Order provides as follows, and I quote, 1081. In accordance with Article 79(2) of the Constitution, a bill to amend the Constitution shall not be passed unless A, not less than 30 days before the first reading of the bill in the Assembly, the text of the bill is published in the Gazette, and B, the bill is supported on second and third reading stages by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all the members of the Assembly. End of quote. Honorable members, I am also alive to the provisions of Article 5 of the Constitution, which provides as follows, and I quote, 5.1, sovereign authority vests in the people of Zambia, which may be exercised directly or through their elected or appointed representatives or institutions. 2, power is not conferred by or under this Constitution on any state organ, state institution, state officer, constitutional office holder, or other institution or person reserved for the people. 3, the people of Zambia shall exercise their reserved power through a referendum as prescribed. Further, Article 62(2) and 3 clothes Parliament with legislative power and prohibits any person or body other than Parliament to enact legislation. The article provides as follows, 62(2). The legislative authority of the Republic is vested in and exercised by Parliament. 3, a person or body other than Parliament shall not have power to enact legislation except as conferred by this Constitution. End of quote. The House will recall that prior to its presentation, the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2025, was published in the Gazette for 30 days as provided for under Article 72(2)A and Standing Order 1081A of the Constitution and Standing Order, respectively. I wish to point out that there is no proposal in the bill. Let me read that again. I wish to point out that there is no proposal in Bill 7 to amend either Article 79 or the Bill of Rights. These are entrenched provisions that require the involvement of the people through a referendum. Therefore, I was of the considered view that Parliament could exercise its legislative authority as conferred upon it by Article 62(2), as read together with Article 5(1) above, which do not require a referendum, but is exercised by the legislature through members of Parliament who are the people's representatives. There is nothing in the proposed amendment presented under Bill 7 that requires involvement of Article 5(3), which requires a referendum. In this regard, the bill was properly before the House, both in terms of the law In this regard, the bill was properly before the House, both in terms of the law and parliamentary procedure. Standing Order 111 outlines the stages of a bill, which includes first reading, second reading, committee stage, and third reading. At this point, allow me to briefly explain what happens at each of the legislative stages above for the benefit of some members and the general public. We start with first reading. This is the presentation of the bill to the House by the sponsor of the bill. The sponsor of a bill may be a minister or a private member. The sponsor simply reads the short title and the objects of the bill, meaning what the bill is intended to achieve. Standing Order 1123 provides that when a bill has been read the first time, it shall stand referred to an appropriate committee for detailed examination. Therefore, after the first reading, the Speaker refers the bill to an appropriate committee for detailed examination. It is important for me to explain that when the bill has been referred to an appropriate committee, the committee produces a program of work, which includes consultative meetings, Honorable Member for Wacha, is it? Please. I'll read that again. Standing Order 1123 provides that when a bill has been read the first time, it shall stand referred to an appropriate committee for detailed examination. Therefore, after the first reading, the Speaker refers the bill to an appropriate committee for detailed examination. It is important for me to explain that when the bill has been referred to an appropriate committee, the committee produces a program of work which includes consultative meetings with various stakeholders on their views for or against the bill. Honorable members, if we don't sit quietly, I can suspend the reading of the bill and refer you to some standing orders. I don't want to do that. Please allow me to finish reading the ruling. Apart from the identified stakeholders, members of Parliament and members of the general public are free to make submissions to the committee within the program of work of the committee. This is a consultative process that involves the public and is in line with Article 89(1) of the Constitution, which provides as follows, and I quote, 89(1). The National Assembly shall facilitate public involvement in the legislative process, end of quote. In this way, members of the public are not excluded from the legislative process. The committee reports back to the House on its findings in not less than 20 working days, or including such additional time as may be prescribed by the Speaker. 2, second reading. On the day assigned for second reading stage of the bill, the minister or backbencher responsible for the bill, namely the sponsor, shall move the motion that the bill be read the second time. The sponsor is then allowed to explain the objects of the objects or rationale of the bill, for bringing the bill, After the sponsor has explained the rationale for bringing the bill, the chairperson of the committee to which the bill was referred presents the report to the committee, including the findings from the various stakeholders, members of Parliament, and members of public that made submissions to the committee. After the chairperson of the committee presents the committee's report, other members are allowed to debate the bill. At the end of the debate, a vote is taken for or against the bill before proceeding to the next stage. If it's a constitutional bill, the threshold at this stage is 2/3 of all members of the House voting in favor of the bill. If it is any other bill, a simple majority suffices. After the second reading, the bill is then referred to a committee of the whole House for committee stage. Third committee stage. The objective of the committee stage is to accord the committee of the whole House an opportunity to approve the bill clause by clause. It is important to mention that at this stage, if there is a member who is not happy with any clause, can move an amendment for which he or she gives notice. Amendments are debated and passed using a simple majority, whether a bill is a constitutional one or any other bill. If a clause has been amended, the chairperson immediately puts the question that the clause as amended stands part of the bill. Where an amendment is not agreed to, the chairperson orders the original clause to stand part of the bill. If the bill is not amended at committee stage, it proceeds to third reading stage. However, if a bill has been amended at committee stage, it proceeds to report stage, which brings us to 4, report stage. As I have already stated, the report stage only occurs when there were amendments during the committee stage. Further amendments may be made to the bill at this stage. The amendments at this stage are restricted to minor ones meant to clean up the bill. After the report stage, the bill proceeds to the third reading stage. 5, third reading. At this stage, the Speaker puts the question that the bill be read the third time. There is no debate at this stage. If a bill is a constitutional one, the threshold for passing this stage is 2/3 of all members of the House voting in favor of the bill. If, on the other hand, the bill is not constitutional one, the threshold is simple majority. After going through the third reading, the bill is considered as passed by the House. Now, let's turn to the process that was followed in Bill 7. Honorable members, without providing all the details of what occurred when the Honorable Minister of Justice presented the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill, the procedure outlined in the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024 were set in motion. As the House will recall, the bill was referred to a select committee in line with Standing Order 1123, and the select committee began to execute its mandate. In its program of work, the select committee lined up the following stakeholders to be consulted: the Ministry of Justice, Program Manager, SADC Parliamentary Forum, Electoral Commission of Zambia, Zambia Law Development Commission, Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts, Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, Gender Division, Office of the Vice President, Ministry of Finance and National Planning, Human Rights Commission, the Judiciary of Zambia, Zambia Statistics Agency, Police Monitoring and Research Center, Zambia Institute for Police Analysis and Research, Action Institute for Police Analysis Center, Council of Churches in Zambia, Zambia National Federation of the Blind, Zambia Agents for Persons with Disability, Zambia Conference for Catholic Bishops, Gears Initiative Zambia, Non-Governmental Gender Organization Coordinating Council, Girls Gone Political, Zambia National Students Union, Center for Young, Leaders in Africa, Zambia Civil Liberties Union, Independent Churches Association of Zambia, Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia, Jesuit Center for Theological Reflections, Islamic Council of Zambia, Press Association of Zambia, Media Institute of Southern Africa, Zambia chapter, Women in Law and Development in Africa, Local Government Association of Zambia, Young Women Christian Association, Zambia Institute of Governance and Civil Liberties Advocates Platform, Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, Measures of Justice and Democracy Foundation, House of Chiefs, Caritas Zambia, Action Aid Zambia, Alliance for Community Action, Disability Rights Watch, Zambia National Women's Lobby, Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, Carter Center Zambia, National Institute for Public Administration School of Law, Zambia Open University School of Law, the Oasis Forum, the Southern Africa Center for Constructive Resolution of Disputes, Transparency International Zambia, Advocates for National Development and Democracy, University of Zambia School of Law, Women in Law in Southern Africa, the Law Association of Zambia, University of Zambia School of Law, Economic Front, New Congress Party, Socialist Party, Chapter 1 Foundation, United Liberal Party, Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, Patriotic Front, National Democratic Congress, United Party for National Development, Party for National Unity and Progress, Patriots for Economic Progress, Citizens First, Forum for Democracy and Development, Economic Freedom Fighters, Leadership Movement, New Heritage Party, Golden Party, Zambia Must Prosper, Members of Parliament, Minister of Justice, and members of the public. It is clear from the above list that the Select Committee intended to consult widely on Bill 7. Honorable members, Standing Order 121 of the National Assembly Standing Orders 2024 is instructive on the procedure to be followed when a member sponsoring the bill desires to defer or withdraw it. Standing Order 121.1 provides as follows, and I quote, "A member who sponsors a bill may defer or withdraw the bill at any time by formally writing to the Speaker stating his or her decision," end of quote. Honorable members, as the Select Committee was executing its mandate, on Thursday, 26 June 2025, my office received communication from the Honorable Minister of Justice informing me of the deferment of Bill 7 of 2025. The reason for the deferment was to allow for further consultations with the stakeholders. As the House will recall, I made an announcement on the same day and consequently suspended the sittings of the Select Committee. I wish to reiterate that according to National Assembly of Zambia Standing Order 2024, the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025 was properly before the House. The deferment that occurred on Thursday, 26 June 2025, was in accordance with the procedures for deferring a bill as outlined in our standing orders. It is important at this stage for me to be categorical that, in line with the doctrine of exclusive cognizance, which I've extensively traversed in the preceding paragraphs, if the sponsor of Bill 7, that is the Honorable Minister of Justice, decides to proceed with the subsequent stages of Bill 7, this House will resume consideration of the bill. This is notwithstanding the judgment of the Constitutional Court in the Munia Zulu case. This is because the Constitutional Court or any other external body, for that matter, cannot arrest a legislative process that has been set in motion and is under consideration in Parliament. I thank you. All the honorable members, can we settle down? We have a lot of work before us. Can we please settle down? Urgent matters without notice. The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to rise on an urgent matter without notice directed at the leader of government business in the House. Madam Speaker, the recent cabinet resolved to deploy the army in areas where there is illegal mining, particularly gold. Madam Speaker, this has brought about panic amongst our citizens.
Order, honorable members, without curtailing you, order. Order. I'm sure if the honorable members was listening to my last announcement, before I delivered the ruling that the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs is coming to this House to deliver a statement tomorrow. Please hold on to your questions, and when the Honorable Minister is on the floor of the House, you can ask that question. I hope you were listening when we were.
Madam Speaker, I take your guidance, though according to how I got your announcement.
I've guided, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for Kamfisa.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to direct an urgent matter to our Honor the Vice President. Madam Speaker, yesterday, courtesy of the national broadcaster ZNBC, a report was aired to the effect that 3 people had died at a mine called Matala Gold Mine in Nangoma constituency, which is under Mumbwa district, Madam Speaker. And this is a totally different facility from the one that is of the subject matter, which is Mufumbwe. Madam Speaker, given the fact that 3 lives have been lost in Nangoma constituency, I am compelled to direct an urgent matter to our Honor the Vice President. Madam Speaker, is our Honor the Vice President, leader of government business, in order, Madam Speaker, not to come to this august House, assure the young people of Zambia who want to participate in mining, in particular, in this particular area, Madam Speaker, where 3 lives have been lost. Is she in order, Madam Speaker, not to come to this august House, to give a statement on why lives are being lost, Madam Speaker, under such circumstances where young people want to venture into mining? Madam Speaker, I seek your indulgence.
Honorable Member for Kamfisa, that issue, I think, is related with the Mufumbwe, especially the fact that these 3 deaths occurred just about yesterday. I'm sure the Honorable Ministers, when he comes tomorrow, he will also address that issue. So let's hold on to our questions and ask the Honorable Minister when he comes. This also relates to illegal mining, to people mining without licenses, young people, all those issues. Please just prepare your questions so that when the Minister renders the ministerial statement, you have more questions to ask him in order to clear this issue. So please hold on to your questions. The Honorable Member for Kaumbwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My matter of urgent public importance is directed at the Minister of Agriculture. Madam Speaker, since government announced the floor price of maize, the FRA has not gone to buy the maize till this time. The people of Kaumbwe are worried that the national food security, which is very, very important, is threatened by briefcase buyers. If you drive on the greatest road, almost every time you meet trucks laden with maize bought by private players. Is the Minister of Agriculture in order to keep quiet, not announcing, or rather open the depots to buy the maize, which our people need to benefit from the good price that the government has given this year? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Kaumbu, I suggest you put in an urgent question. Please put in an urgent question because a lot of people would want to benefit from the answer that the Honorable Minister of Agriculture is going to give on that issue. So we have exhausted the 3 honorable members. For failure, you do not qualify, so we make progress. Question for oral answer, understanding order 80. By prior arrangement, this question will be asked by the honorable member for Kasama Central. The honorable member for Kasama Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the good people of Chadiza, question number 371.
The Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member for Chadiza, Mr. J. Daka, asked the Minister of Agriculture how many civil servants applied for loans under the Sustainable Agriculture Financing Facility for the 2023-2024 farming season in Chadiza district, and B, how many applicants were granted the loans, and C, how many applicants at B paid back the loans as of December 2024. Madam Speaker, our answer is as follows. A total of 131 civil servants applied for the Sustainable Agriculture Financing Facility, SAF, for the 2023-2024 farming season in Chadiza. B, 26 applicants were granted the loans. C, Chadiza, Madam Speaker, was among the drought-affected districts. Therefore, farmers were not expected to pay back the loans. I thank you.
So, thank you. Supplementary questions? The Honorable Member for Kasama Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that response. Honorable Minister, the question is, does government have any plans to indicate a definite target for the SAF loans beneficiaries per district? Because it seems there's a lot of beneficiaries that would benefit from CDF, they'll benefit from FISIP, they would also benefit from SAF, hence that question. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Yes, Madam Speaker, the answer is yes. We are trying to look at how we can actually target the number of potential applicants district by district. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kamfinso.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister of Agriculture, the Sustainable Agriculture Finance Facility, from the question that has been raised by the Honorable Member of Kasama on behalf of Chadiza, relates to making money available to those that want to do sustainable farming. I want to find out from you, Minister, how much money was allocated for this particular activity in the context of making the money available, because we've had people complaining that only a few applicants have been considered, while majority of people, Madam Speaker, still want to participate and benefit from this particular funding. So, Madam Speaker, my question is, do we have money available for this particular finance facility? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Before the Honorable Minister of Agriculture comes in to answer that question, there is an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Solwezi, what's the point of order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to raise a point of order on a serious note on contempt of Parliament and breach of privilege. Madam Speaker, a member of Parliament who utters derogatory remarks about Parliament outside parliamentary premises could be committing a contempt of Parliament, which is a breach of privilege. This action can be seen as disrespect towards the institution and its proceedings, potentially undermining public confidence in Parliament. Depending on the specific content of the laws of their jurisdiction, this could lead to various consequences, including censure, suspension, or other disciplinary action determined by the House. Madam Speaker, contempt. In this case, I have used the word derogatory, and contempt in this case, Madam Speaker, attack on the integrity or authority of Parliament can be considered a contempt of Parliament. Breach of privilege. Madam Speaker, yes, we do understand that privilege generally protects members' freedom of speech within the Parliament, but this protection is not absolute and does not extend to conduct that undermines the institution itself. Madam Speaker, just on Friday, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kana was on the media, and I quote, according to the mast that was published on Saturday, page 2, headed...
Sorry, Honorable Member, without curtailing you, those are matters that didn't happen on the floor of this House, so I would advise that you write a letter of complaint.
Madam Speaker, well guided, and the letter of complaint has also been written, and would like that, with your permission, allow me to lay the letter on the floor of the House, as well as the mast. Thank you.
The letter that you have written, Honorable Member, together with the mast, they should be sent to either the office of the clerk or my office, and then it will be dealt with accordingly. Since you cannot raise it as a point of order, there is no breach that has happened just now, and it didn't happen on the floor of the House. But thank you very much. I don't want to curtail you, but we have a lot of work. That's why I wanted to. It's okay, Honorable Member for Solwezi East. Thank you. I see the passion. May the Honorable Minister of Agriculture answer the question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, it is important that the House and the nation do realize that SAF is a commercial transaction between the applicants and the commercial banks. Our role as government is merely to support the applicants through the credit guarantee scheme. Funds, therefore, are made available by banks and supported to some extent by government through the budget, which this House appropriated and discussed and recommended. So the obvious answer is yes, there is some support, but to the extent only of support. The real amount comes from the commercial banks. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, Madam Speaker, the Minister in answering Section C of question 371 was very clearly stated that Chadiza, just like Nyimba, these are areas which were highly affected by the drought. Madam Speaker, is the Minister aware that those are people affected by droughts who are not supposed to pay, they are meant to pay right now? Those affected for 2023 and 2024, they are paying back those loans which they are not supposed to pay. Is the Minister aware, Madam Speaker? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Agriculture. Madam Speaker, what I gave is the policy position. Therefore, I would not be aware that there are people who are being forced to pay. I would be happy to be guided on who are being forced. What I continuously did, Madam Speaker, was to refuse to give a wholesome picture because certain parts of Zambia received rains and therefore people are supposed to pay. But for the 84 districts, we made it clear, even through a ministerial statement, that those areas, the people are not supposed to pay. So I would be happy to be guided for the areas that were affected if indeed the applicants are being forced to pay. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kasama Central.
Thank you once again, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, there is a major complaint from most of the farmers to say that SAF loans are being accessed mostly by well-connected individuals in the constituency. What measures are being put in place to ensure that even just genuine farmers without connections can have access to SAF loan facilities? I submit. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Madam Speaker, the SAF loans, as given by the Honourable Member for Kasama, are loans given by banks. The role of the Ministry of Agriculture is to assist the banks confirm that a given applicant is indeed a farmer. As to who and how they give, that is between the bank and the applicant. What we need to do, however, as leaders, people governing this country, all of us here, is to have interest and support our farmers. Because who knows, what you are saying could be right, and it is up to us, it is up to the member for Chadiza to get interested and know who has applied in Chadiza and support his constituents. Otherwise, we will continue having problems like this and continue talking in here. It will not yield any result. This is between the bank and the applicant. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Iteji.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for the responses. Minister, the SAF program, the last farming season was the first season that government was in practice implementing it. And the people of Chadiz and many other places, we appreciate the benefits that are coming with SAF, especially that it's targeting the civil servants who are not part of SAF. Now, Minister, for the benefit of the people of Chadiz and many other places like it is, what do you think was not done very well by your ministry? I know it's the bank, but there's an element where, as a ministry, we should coordinate the process. Which areas do you think we need to improve so that this year SAF becomes better than it was conducted last year? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the views given by the Honourable Member. Number one, Madam Speaker, it is important to capture the fact that SAF is implemented by the banks. What are we going to do to help improve the situation? One, Madam Speaker, we want to make sure that each province is given a targeted number of farmers. Two, we want to help the bank to make sure that these farmers indeed apply for a given type of loan. Remember, there are about 5 loan portfolios under SAF. And the other thing is to improve the selection, which, Madam Speaker, gets back to us as honourable members. Let us ensure that those who apply are genuine, and what they apply for is a product that indeed they want to venture into, to avoid issues where people discount the portfolios which they are given, the loan amounts which they are given. They just go to sell to the bank and then to the agro dealers and then be given a certain amount. So we are looking at how we can help the banks to improve the status of SAF. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. This is a constituency-based question. I see there is a lot of interest. What I can encourage the honorable members is to engage the honorable Minister of Agriculture so that we make progress, because we have a number of motions that we need to go through. So we will leave it at that. I will urge, as I said, honorable members to engage the honorable Minister of Agriculture. So we make progress. Notes, private members' motion, honorable member for Chilubi.
You are disturbing me. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the motion on urging government to reintroduce debt swap in the civil service.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Order, Honorable Minister of Agriculture. And the Minister of Technology. I can see him on an ante-hill there. Seconded by the Honorable Member for Kanchibia. The question is that this House urges the government seconded by the Honorable Member for Kanchibia. The question is that this House urges the government to reintroduce debt swap for civil servants. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Chilubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that this House urges government to reintroduce debt swap for civil servants. Madam Speaker, the people of Chilubi would like to contribute to this motion, which over a backdrop that this matter has been tackled before, but it has remained with a big gap that needs to be filled. Madam Speaker, for starters, the people of Chilubi would like to lay on the context of how they are viewing what debt swap is. Debt swap, Madam Speaker, in this case, is a financial arrangement where a borrower replaces existing debt with a new obligation under more favorable condition. That is the starting point, Madam Speaker. And another factor that the people of Chilubi, Madam Speaker, would like to raise is that the word reintroduce. Madam Speaker, this is on the background that on 29th July 2021, government entered into an agreement with the civil servant and allied workers union of Zambia to do debt swap for civil servants. Madam Speaker, the House would need to know that later this particular agreement was cancelled on 29th May 2022. The reason that was given is that the arrangement was not sustainable. Madam Speaker, that is where we are coming from. The question will be asked is why debt swap, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, this debt swap is specifically targeted at civil servants, and civil servants in this case meaning public workers in another term, and meaning this is targeted at a payslip, and it's targeted at a payslip of take home, the money that the civil servants take home. Currently, this payslip is a victim of high debts, is a victim of deductions,
And this is putting civil servants under fiscal strain, where they are failing to meet domestic requirements. There be food and non-food requirements. Madam Speaker, when we talk about the stress that the civil servants are suffering, it is because this is an engine of government that propels service delivery, among other things, that also propels productivity. We do realize, Madam Speaker, that if a worker who is constrained financially is exposed to government facilities, and this worker is exposed to service delivery, they are already landing on a compromise note, which may, the output may not be so good that Zambians may be pleased about it. Madam Speaker, that is the reason why this debt swap motion is being pushed. What is the model for the proposed debt swap? The proposed debt swap, Madam Speaker, among other things, would take low interest rate arrangements away from the higher interest rate. Other things that proposed arrangement is supposed to consider, Madam Speaker, is that the debt should be restructured in a manner that what is being deducted from the payslip is lower than it may be. Another mode that this debt swap, which is proposed, is supposed to take is consolidation of different loans on a payslip so that they are in one basket, and the channeling, when the debt restructuring is done, it's of relief. Madam Speaker, the consolidation of debt, this means that it is a scheme that can bring in microfinance, commercial banks, and other lenders. Though we know that because of the strain that the public servants are in, we have a situation where they are even borrowing away from the payslips, where they bring in Shylocks and the like. And all that is being caused is because they are under financial strain. Another factor that may come in, since debt swap, Madam Speaker, is also linked to domestic debt, is people may say, we are trying to encourage government to borrow more. But, Madam Speaker, government is still borrowing in a manner that it is trying to meet the services. And this engine of government, that is also part of government delivery of service, should also benefit in a way, indirect or direct. So, Madam Speaker, the legal basis of debt swap is in section 69 of the Industrial Labor Relations Act, Cap 269, which provides about regulation of conditions of service between employers and unions. And I think what is referred to also as a tripartite relationship. Madam Speaker, the issue of debt swap, for it to be more successful and befitting, especially in an economic environment like ours, should not, among other things, encourage indiscipline in the civil service. It is for this reason, Madam Speaker, that among the things that are suggested to curb, because debt swap is a temporal measure, among other things that are suggested to curb more further indiscipline or borrowing, are that this debt swap we are proposing should go with financial redress, should also go with wider restructuring of the debt as it may be, especially reducing staggering the debt to lower installments and longer period of payment. For instance, if a civil servant was supposed to pay a particular loan in 3 years or 6 months, we are proposing, Madam Speaker, that this is staggered to the period, since these are more on permanent basis, is staggered to a period of 2 years and above, so that the civil servants have a relief. Madam Speaker, when we look at the issue of debt swap, I think it's an open door, especially that the current environment is also encouraging that the economic benefits that government is talking about should benefit all, and especially the 300,000 plus public workers are supposed to be the beneficiary. We are scared, Madam Speaker, that even those that have been recruited have joined the canteen culture of the general civil servant, where they just learned today, they have to borrow a loan to meet an emergency, they have to borrow a loan to also meet some debt. So, Madam Speaker, the situation is where the civil servant borrows from this one and extends to the other. So, Madam Speaker, this is a non-controversial motion, which I urge that members of parliament should join in to call for our workers on this day so that the reintroduction can be done, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Your time is up. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
No, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kanchibia.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second a motion that speaks not just to fiscal policy, but to the heart of justice, compassion, and responsibility. I rise to second a motion that speaks to the very essence that effective and efficient government service delivery depends and hinges on a highly productive civil service. Madam Speaker, let me begin with Wumba, a primary school teacher in Kanchibia constituency with 19 years of service. Last month, her payslip showed minus 124 kwacha, 76 ingwe. This is not a misprint. It means that after loan deductions, she owed more than she earned. Agnes and Wumba, a widow raising 3 children, she borrowed to fix her roof, pay school fees, buy food when prices surge. Madam Speaker, there's Mulenga and in Luchembe in Kanchibia. Her take-home pay is 113 kwacha. Transport to the rural health center costs 25 kwacha per day. So she walks or sleeps at a mat at the clinic to avoid transport costs. She borrowed to pay for utility bills, funeral costs, and not recovered since. These are not fictional tales. These are faces of our frontline workers, Zambians serving the nation but living in economic bondage. Madam Speaker, the move of this motion has spoken to what the debt swap is. This is a government mechanism supported by financial restructuring mechanism, allowing the government to settle or absorb salary-backed loans from civil servants, consolidate them under a central public financial institution, such as a public service microfinance institution, and allow affected workers to repay the government under humane, transparent, and affordable terms through payroll deductions. Madam Speaker, this is not a cancellation of debt. It is a controlled transfer and restructuring. It is a lifeline. It is not a handout. It is not a hoax. Madam Speaker, as of 2022, the debt owed by civil servants to microfinance and salary-backed lenders is reported to have stood at 27 billion kwacha. That number has almost certainly risen, owing to stagnant salaries, the rising cost of living, the basic needs and nutritional basket, which is now standing at 11,763 as of June 2025, and a weak regulatory oversight. Today, some civil servants, Madam Speaker, take home less than 10% of their gross pay, with many pay slips showing zero or negative balances. Madam Speaker, we now have civil servants borrowing to buy meal, to pay for funerals, to afford transport to go to work. These are professionals, qualified, experienced individuals living in functional poverty. This is not just about numbers, Madam Speaker. It's about the dignity of the service. It's about the moral obligation of a grateful nation. Madam Speaker, many civil servants are blacklisted. They cannot access future credit. They live with anxiety, humiliation, and despair. Their data is shared between lenders. Their lives are closely monitored, not to support them, but to extract every kwacha. Predatory lenders, Madam Speaker, charge interest rates of up to 60%. And civil servants, because of their guaranteed income, are the primary targets. This is systemic exploitation of the West order committed to the workforce we so depend on in order for us to deliver. Madam Speaker, we must learn from the past. Under the previous administration, a debt swap was introduced. It was well-intentioned, but poorly executed in some areas. The flaws included a rushed national rollout, lack of engagement with unions and civil society, weak sustainability planning. We must learn from that experience, but not to abandon the idea, but to reform and reintroduce it wisely. Madam Speaker, the proposed framework of the new debt swap must be phased in the sense that it must prioritize the low-income earners, start with confirmed active civil servants. It must be structured. Repayment to be capped at about 30% of net salary. The PSMFI to serve as a central collector and custodian. It must be collaborative, working with the Bank of Zambia unions and regulated lenders. It must also establish a multi-stakeholder oversight board. It must be protective in that it introduces statutory caps on interest rates, as well as prohibits stacking of multiple loans. It must be educational. It must include mandatory financial literacy training. Madam Speaker, this particular motion is aligned to the following policies. The 8th National Development Plan, under Human Capital Development, the Vision 2023-2030, reduce poverty and improve livelihoods, public service reform agenda, a motivated and efficient workforce, sustainable goals, development goals, Goal 1, Goal 8, and Goal 10, no poverty, decent work, and reduce inequality. Madam Speaker, my appeal to this Honourable House and the Honourable Members is that this is not about partisanship. It is about our partnership with our civil servants. We all, as Honourable Members in this House, the 156 constituencies, have teachers, we have nurses, we have police officers in our constituencies. We have all seen their anguish, the shame, and the desperation. Let this House respond, not with rhetoric, Madam Speaker, but with resolve. We support this motion not because it is Honourable Fubez and mine, but because it is right. Madam Speaker, we are calling on this Honourable House that government is urged to reintroduce a debt swap in a phased and structured manner. In a phased and structured manner. Madam Speaker, that government work with regulated institutions to consolidate and not to cancel the civil servant debt. That government works to enhance public service microfinance institutions for implementation. That we keep predatory interest rates and introduce lending regulations. That we introduce oversight and transparency mechanisms. That we provide financial literacy training to prevent future indebtedness. Madam Speaker, this is a call for compassion, it is a call for reform, it's a call for justice. Let us remember Bumba, let us remember Mulenga, let us remember thousands of them they are not asking for charity, they are asking for a second chance. Let this Parliament, Madam Speaker, speak for the silent, lift the burden, and restore the dignity of our public servants. I so move, Madam Speaker. May God bless our civil servants. May God bless Zambia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Zambezi East. The Honourable... Okay.
Madam Speaker, while I stand here with mixed feelings, of course I would say I would support the motion. However, it will not go without comments that will help us reason together on what is best for everyone. Madam Speaker, the mover of the motion and the seconder of the motion are calling this a debt swap. I am left with a lot of questions within me to try and reconcile the wording of that motion and the suggestion that there should be a debt swap. First of all, which date should we identify which should be swapped with government? Because this is data acquired by individuals, mostly from lending institutions, which have different rules and different circumstances. This is how these debts come about. And each individual has got their own share of debt in whatever form. So coming up with a blanket statement of how debt can be swapped is quite difficult to reconcile on the part of government. Yes, while the idea sounds good as a nice to have, it's complex to implement. Why is it complex? Because it actually depends on the very effect of human behavior. How did we arrive at where we are? These are issues of moral standing. And because how are some of the civil servants not in a debt trap situation? And how that some are so deep such that their pay slips, even when they are safety gadgets put in the payroll system, they have managed to beat those safety gadgets that have been put in the payroll system and have managed to have negative net incomes on their pay slips. It's all about really morality. Because of this fact, I would say, even as much as I would support that this is a good idea, we need to emphasize on growing the economy. I think government so far is putting in several measures to help our citizens, civil servants inclusive, even those who are in the debt trap. Just take a leaf from even the CDF. In my constituency, we don't exempt civil servants. They participate in obtaining even CDF loans. And mostly, they are the ones who are actually doing better. They are doing so well, they are able to repay the loans, and they have come out of the so-called debt trap using the CDF avenue. So these are some of the initiatives government is putting across. I've just heard about these loans which the Ministry of Agriculture has been also giving. And I think the civil servants are not exempt, are they? They are not. They can participate in this. All these are avenues of creating wealth. The reason to why some of our public workers have ended up in debt trap is it's a personal issue. Some of them have not managed their finances very well. Sorry to say this. I know of some who have just gone on a rampage of borrowing just because they are in civil service. And for those of you who have the experience of credit scoring, public servants are the safest to lend to because they have a guaranteed salary. And their employment tenure is guaranteed. So lending houses also find them as easy prey to lend to because they expect that these will easily pay back because they are entitled to a salary every month and their employment is very much guaranteed, permanent and pensionable. They also have some income guaranteed after the end of their employment term. So because of this, they become easy prey for lending institutions, and they quickly approve loans towards these, our public service workers. However, on a personal note, some of them have been careless enough to get into debt trap. And this is on an individual basis. So in my opinion, we should look at a case-by-case approach. Yes, coming up with a rule to say let's appropriate funds from the budget to rub all the loans for everyone and see how they can start afresh. They'll go back to the same thing as long as the behavior issue is not dealt with. So we would be dealing with one issue while procrastinating the problem. And sooner or later, it will actually be a problem again. So the solution is in growing the economy. And I think government is doing many things so far, including these initiatives to ensure that there is a high production of copper. Government initiatives to grow the economy are quite vast in the UPND government, if you clearly check. Pay particular attention to those pronouncements the Minister of Finance makes when he comes to this house. Because these, they have an effect of how we live at home, including what income comes to me at the household level. When the economy is improved, all the parameters which affect the economy are doing well, those problems will be reduced. And we will not have to come to this house to try and come up with a policy to write off individual debts. I don't think that's the way to go. The way to go is to carefully improve on the parameters we have put already, especially the CDF, which you, all of us here in this house, are controlling. Why can't we deliberately support some of these who are in a debt trap to come out of there with these cheaper loans, which are actually at 8%? That's a solution. If they grow their business using the same, wouldn't they be able to pay back the expensive loan that they are owing? And I think these are avenues we can leverage on, and many other avenues which are actually available for civil public service. And I think public servants are actually at advantage in terms of accessing government funding, including small credit. There is an institution that supports public servants, even acquiring assets. Why not leverage on that institution and going to the expensive lenders just because you've got a safe payslip and you have guaranteed income? So to suggest that we should come up with a policy which is wholesale and common to everyone in whatever situation would be too much to ask government. I believe it would be good for us to actually continue encouraging our public servants to look for these avenues that have been brought by the new Dawn administration, which are so splendid and they're already working very well. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Before we proceed, there's an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Lunte, what's the point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, every member of Parliament has an opinion over any subject. And I sat here listening to my honorable colleague as he was tendering his opinion. But I got very concerned when he alleged that all of us here are controlling CDF. Madam Speaker, I am not controlling CDF. There's nothing that provides for me to control CDF. CDF is controlled by the council. Is it in order, based on Standing Order 71, to indicate that all of us here, including myself, who is not controlling CDF, are controlling CDF? Madam Speaker, being a member of a committee does not amount to control. As a matter of fact, CDF application, Madam Speaker, is an executive application. It is never a National Assembly application. Is it in order to accuse all of us of controlling CDF when, in fact, some of us are not controlling it? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Lunte, you have sufficiently debated your point of order. So let's make progress. Honorable members, a CDF was started for members of parliament. So why are you denying it? I thought it's supposed to enhance your performance in your constituencies. I'm wondering why you are refusing CDF. Anyway, let's make progress. The honorable member for Chama North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to say a few words on this very, very important motion. And before that, allow me, Madam Speaker, on behalf of the people of Chama North, to convey our heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and the people of Northwestern Province following the death of those workers in the informal sector who went to dig some gold in Mufumbwe. May their souls rest in peace. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the mover of this motion, Honorable Fube, and also the seconder of this motion, Honorable Sunday Chanda. I think this is a non-controversial motion. What the mover and the seconder are appealing to the government is that we have civil servants who are highly indebted. You find that at the end of the month, these workers don't get anything. They get negative salaries. And you find that some of these workers may be on the negative pay for maybe for the next 2 years. And this has happened, it's not only in the civil service, but also this is very common in parastatal organizations such as ZESCO, talking from experience. And when you have a workforce which is not getting anything at the end of the month, you don't expect that workforce to be productive. So this workforce, most of the time, they'll be looking for other alternative for them to earn a living. At the end of the day, it's productivity which suffers. I know that I'm alive to the fact that workers' deductions from their salaries is regulated by the Employment Code of 2019, and also what is enshrined in various collective agreements signed between trade unions and the employers. Where employees, they consent to these particular deductions. So for me, I think it will be good for this government to consider paying these maybe financial institutions whatever these workers earn, and then the government can be able now to start deducting something from the employees, so that these employees are not getting negative salaries at the end of the day. I think that way it is going to enhance productivity. Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate that this subject, we are discussing it here in Parliament. I expect that this is a matter which is not supposed to be discussed by members of Parliament. It's a matter which is supposed to be dealt with by trade unions. We have trade unions in this country who are registered under the law to protect the interests of the Zambian workers. Now, if members of Parliament will be discussing issues which are supposed to be dealt by trade unions, then what is the role of trade unions in this country? So I think it's a higher time that trade unions, I think, should wake from their slumber, wake up from their slumber, and start doing what is needed of them. Trade unions get membership subscription every month from the employees. So really, if we are going to sit here and discussing debt swap on behalf of the workers, then it's quite a very sad development and a very serious indictment on the labor movement in this country. I know that this background is coming from, I remember in 2012, 2013, I can be corrected, the workers in this country, the civil servants, were given about 100% salary increment. And I think they assumed that every year they'll be getting maybe 100%, and then they start over borrowing. You see, but at the end of as years progress, if you get 100%, there's no way you can continue to be getting 100%. The percentages start reducing, but these financial institutions and other shylops take advantage of these vulnerable workers, because most of the employers, even in the informal sector, they don't have in-house loan facilities so that they are able to give their workers loans or salary advances at a very, very concession interest rate. No wonder these Shylocks have taken advantage of the situation. So for me, I think it is a non-controversial motion. I want to support it, but I want to appeal to the workers that they need to be financially disciplined. I know that some workers are very disciplined, but others, they want to overborrow, which is not good. So while I support this particular motion, but I think we need discipline among the workforce. I'm saying this talking from experience, whereby certain loans which workers get are not even helping their family members. Some of these monies we get as workers end up maybe we go and spend it to areas which are not even productive, which can help we workers to improve our well-being. So why I support this, but I think I should call for financial discipline among the workers, and it is incumbent upon trade unions to ensure that they inculcate a sense of discipline in their membership to ensure that they borrow responsibly. So with those few remarks, I support this motion. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mufurira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I support this motion, which is urging the government to reintroduce the debt swap for civil servants. And Madam Speaker, I support this motion with a lot of empathy for the civil servants, especially those who are highly indebted. Every day, Madam Speaker, or occasionally, I have come face to face with these struggling civil servants because their pay slips are choked from various microfinance institutions and financial institutions. Every month, deductions leave them with very little to take home. Even as late as yesterday, Madam Speaker, I was in the constituency, I was discussing with one of the civil servants who was telling me they go home with about 2,000 kwacha because they have 3 deductions from 3 different institutions, lending institutions. So this motion, Madam Speaker, is a very important motion. And for me also is to look at somehow how do some of these civil servants end up in such a situation. Most of them, it's not even their making. Of course, we have talked about financial literacy, which I support. I think the government must consider introducing or somehow exposing the civil servants to financial literacy, just to know how they should be managing their expectations in terms of income. Madam Speaker, sometimes what happens, when the recruitments for example, teachers or health workers are announced and they are given appointment letters and posted, financial institutions, microfinance, commercial banks start sending them SMSs. Others even just send them to their workplaces to introduce the loan packages. And they are told, because now you are a civil servant, you'll be getting so much money, there is a loan here, you can buy a car, and you just be paying so much, so much, so much. Now, on the other hand, when they enter the civil service, these civil servants read the conditions of service. Some of them will even see that, oh, okay, so now that I've been employed, I'll be paid a settling allowance, or I'll be paid whatever relocation for those that are already in service. Those that are already in service even take leave and they expect to be paid leave pay, but these payments are not made on time. So on the expectation that I'll get a settling allowance, or I've gone on leave, so I'll be paid by leave travel and all those things, so I'm expecting this man. So I can borrow so that when the government pays me what they owe me, I will be able to clear my debt. But on the part of the government, and in fact I'm saying this, mentioning successive governments, from the MMD, the PF, even now, there are civil servants who have accrued, entitlements, like allowances, but they have not been paid. So based on that expectation, they've gone on to borrow, waiting that when they are paid, they'll be able to clear the debts. But on the part of the government, it's not honoring its part. As a result, these civil servants become debt-trapped. Now, the debt swap, Madam Speaker, especially the one that was cancelled, introduced in 2021, did not even mention to cover everyone who is owing a microfinance institution or commercial bank. It's those that the government owes allowances, that the government can now sit with those and say, okay, since we owe you this allowance and you are owing this institution so much money, we as a government will deal with the financial institution. The money that we owe you will not be paid. We will clear it so that you remain on a clean slate and will deal with the lending institution. That is the background. And for me, that is why I support this motion. Because it does not help to keep owing your employee for years and years, and you lead them into a debt trap, borrowing on the expectation that they'll be paid. They end up being debt trapped. So that's the unfortunate situation. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this motion is just urging the government to relook at that. Of course, there is that agreement which was on the table, signed between the government and the workers' representatives, the unions. And I want to believe that not everything in that agreement was bad. So this is also to urge the government, support this motion, go back to that agreement, look at the positives, because I don't think that everything was so bad that it cannot be resuscitated. Look at the positive aspects of that agreement, maintain them. The reservations or the clauses that this government now has reservations on, those clauses can be relooked at so that we have a win-win situation. Otherwise, as things stand, civil servants are in a coma. And when an employee, all they do 24-hour services to look at how they are going to survive, how are they going to replace the deductions, how do you expect productivity? How does a teacher focus on teaching? How does a health worker focus on administering health service when they are bothered by the money they are going to get for rent, how they are going to provide food for their children, how basically they are going to sustain their families? So this indebtedness is distracting the concentration of the civil servants on their wage. So civil service is the engine of the government. For government policies to be implemented, we need dedicated civil servants who are not bothered about what food they are going to find back home. The pay day is the worst day for a civil servant because the moment the money reflects in their accounts, the Shylocks, these money lending institutions started deducting. They are not even interested in looking at the pay slip because all they are seeing is very low and they have to look for the 30 days ahead of them, how they are going to pay rent, how they are going to provide food, how they are going to sponsor their children to various learning institutions and all those things. So we need really to look into their plight and help them. And resuscitating this debt swap is one of those ways that we are going to support the civil servants so that they can put in their effort in the various works that they are doing for the government policies to be implemented, for development to come to this country. Otherwise, if we are relying on people who are worried about their day-to-day living, all the efforts we do here, the laws, the government policies that they implement, expected to be implemented by civil servants, Madam Speaker, in doubt because people are not focused at work. They are looking at where they are going to get the next borrowing. They are looking at how they are going to raise the money to settle. Meanwhile, the government which owes them money, and here I'm talking about those people who the government owes money and they end up borrowing, expecting to be paid by the government and then they can settle. So when you owe them, pay them, or let's deal with this debt swap. Those that have gone on to borrow on their own, of course, they need financial discipline. And we are not saying this should cover everyone. But those which government is owing, they are in debt, should be brought to the table and see how they can be helped. So therefore, Madam Speaker, this motion is very progressive and we should look at it with a lot of empathy to consider the plight of our civil servants. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Luena.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to debate this motion, ably moved by my good friend, Honourable Member for Chiluvi, and seconded by the Honourable Member for Kanchivia. Madam Speaker, from the onset, the people of Luena would like to say we do not support this motion. And the reasons will be outlined shortly. But the starting point is, what are we talking about? What is actually this motion proposing? This motion is purporting to propose a date swap. Now, a date swap, first of all, can only occur if there is a date. And that means there must be a borrower and there must be a lender. So when the borrower runs into difficulties to liquidate their obligation in the pre-agreed manner, they now suggest alternative ways to liquidate their obligation. That's how a debt swap comes in. And there are several types of debt swaps. You can have debt for equity, debt for development, debt for nature. All kinds of debt swaps can be in place. What is being explained, as our colleagues are trying to explain now, how this will alleviate the suffering of the civil servants, is a debt transfer. You are suggesting, or it is being suggested, Madam Speaker, that the government must take over the debt obligations of these civil servants whose welfare this government cares so much. That we must underline. But to purport to take over their financial obligations as a government would be an extremely reckless thing to do. In fact, I would dare mention that even the one that was supposedly entered into by the previous government to alleviate the burden, the financial obligations were bringing on the civil servants, Madam Speaker, was not financially sustainable. And I suspect the government then did not meet its financial obligations because it had no capacity to do so. You can't take over a liability unless you yourself have the capacity to actually liquidate this obligation. Now, these colleagues of ours sometimes, Madam Speaker, can be very puzzling. Because when the people think that a government is this animal that can create money from the air. So whenever there are issues that require to be dealt with for political expedience, the government can create money and say, no, we have taken over your obligations. And they pay the obligations how? Just last week when the Minister of Finance came here with a supplementary budget, colleagues were opposing it. They were opposing it, saying this is an irresponsible act. There is so much poor planning. How come you didn't foresee these things? Even when part of the money that is supposed to be raised in these supplementary revenue measures is to settle the obligations that they committed the nation to. And today they come and say, we want the government to actually take over more debts that civil servants entered into individually. And then when the government comes and says, this money has to be raised from the same civil servants. So can we increase the tax by 2%? They'll say this government is so uncaring. So it is an irresponsible, vicious financial cycle that we are proposing, which is not sustainable for the nation. And therefore, these arrangements of a debt swap were put in place basically to attempt to hoodwink the public service in the run-up to the general elections in 2021. Give them an impression that the government is caring so much that it is seeking to, it is feeling your pain. So now we want to take over your obligations and they will be releasing this money to the financial institutions that you owe money, and you will now go without any need to settle your obligations. We know that that was not actually implemented. So it will not be in the interest of the financial health of the nation to put in place an unsustainable solution such as a debt swap. Madam Speaker, we do know that the microfinancing schemes or entities that operate in this country operate within a regulatory framework. And so individual public servants go to these institutions and sign contracts. And in those contracts, they commit themselves. And these institutions also do financial due diligence on these individuals before they actually are advanced with these loans. And the only option, therefore, to be pursued in order for people to get out of this debt trap is, if they need to do any debt swap, they should go to the same financial institutions and arrange a debt arrangement or a debt rearrangement, a debt restructuring that will enable them to have longer periods to settle their obligations and therefore pay less, as opposed to a suggestion for a political solution which will not, in any case, which will not solve the problem in a sustainable manner. So, Madam Speaker, with these few words, we would like to conclude and say we do not support this arrangement because it's not sustainable on the finances of the nation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kalabo Central will be the last one. These late indications. Time. I'm worried about time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, the mover of the motion. The mover, Madam Speaker, is my close friend. He visits me to my room. We share many things in common. Now, Madam Speaker, I don't know what the mover wanted us to get from the motion. I was trying to look at swap. Two words here, debt, swap. You cannot, Madam Speaker, create a fourth party. You can't. Swapping is between two parties. From what is framed on the order paper. So maybe what is framed here is not what the mover wanted. Otherwise, swap is between the two parties. There must be an agreement between 1 and 2. There's no third party. I'm just trying to look at it, swapping. So how does the government come in? Okay, Madam Speaker, let me declare interest. I have relatives who are civil servants. I have close relatives. So this must be known. And, I taught for 21 years. Yeah. And then I just gave up. Yeah. So, right now, this government is not for civil servants alone. This government, Madam Speaker, is for everyone, including those who can't even get a date. This we have to bear in mind. There are people who can't write. There are people who can't read. This government has to care for them. There are people who can't see. They are blind. The government has to look after them. This government has to buy medicine for those same civil servants. Madam Speaker, maybe there's a misapplication of the word swap. I forgive them. But now, because there's a swap, at least we are going to add in one word. This time, I believe, Madam, me, I was a teacher. I used to be in the district Zanut committee. There must be a section in all these unions which deals with education. And this is the right time to, when you saw me walking out, I was contacting union officials. That's why I was walking out. Me, I always speak from the bottom of my heart. I was walking out to consult them. This is the right time for unions to advise these workers. When I went home, I met my children. I advised them over the same thing of debts. It's our role as leaders, it's our role as parents to advise our children so that they conduct themselves in the right way. Don't encourage people to misapply money that the government is going to do. This government is for everyone. Look, we want roads in Kalab, Madam Speaker. Where is the government going to get the money from? We want teachers, the same workers, we want the numbers to do what? To increase. And there's this word, reintroducing. I don't know. Maybe the minister is there. Is it the new Dawn government to come up with again? When was it there? I'm sure it was there before 2021. That is gone. This is 2025 under New Dawn, headed by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. We have to put this money to good use. So for me, Madam Speaker, to come here and stand and say, no, Mr. Msokotwane, this you should convert this. Hey! What's that? Madam Speaker, will I be fair to those people in Kalabo? Is that the reason? Surely I can travel 900 kilometers, come to Lusaka, and tell Mr. Msokotwane that no, you should do that, you should transfer, get the burden. Somebody got the money, walked from his room, walked to the bank. They agreed without using the government, without consulting the government. In short, I wouldn't really, under my soul, support that the Minister of Finance should spend time out of this mass job that he has. Again, I should add to his job to look for money? No, I can't do that. I can't do that. So, dear workers, my word to you, be calm in life. Always do that which you can do. Don't live someone's life. Live your life. Madam Speaker, me, I live a life. I advise people to live their lives. Even when you die, you say, I lived my life. Live your life within your means. This is what you should tell people. No wonder I tell them in Kalabo that you go to this on Sunday and Saturday, whilst you are not telling people the truth. What type of a person are you? I can't know. Me, I cannot be. I have to tell people the truth. And this is the truth which is going to save them. If we tell them not to get debts, we are saving them. Because nobody is going to have so much burden. So we don't want to create burden for New Dawn. This New Dawn has to make the road to Skongo. This one. We want street lights. We want good houses. This is the money. Now, at that time, I don't know whether we shall be there. When there will be sufficient abundantly. Maybe. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
As the time is 16:40, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Thank you very much for still watching Parliament TV, the station that is dedicated to bringing Parliament closer to you. And just a quick look at some of the business that has taken place on the floor of the House. We had some announcements that were made by Madam Speaker this afternoon. The first two were basically welcoming pupils and teachers from Mambo Secondary School in Pemba District and Top Notch Academy in Lusaka District. And then the third announcement, Madam Speaker said that honorable members might be aware that over the past few days, there had been reports that confrontations erupted at Kikonge Gold Mine in Momba District, Northwestern Province, Mufumba District rather, in the Northwestern Province between alleged illegal miners and the police, which regrettably resulted in loss of lives. In her statement, she said that it was in this regard that she actually informed the House that she had permitted the Honourable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security to issue a ministerial statement tomorrow, Thursday, 10th July 2025, and inform the House and the nation at large regarding the happenings in Mufumwe District. She sincerely conveyed the sincere, deepest condolences to the bereaved families. That was the announcement that Madam Speaker made earlier on, of course, together with the other announcements where she welcomed pupils and teachers to the National Assembly of Zambia.
After those announcements, Madam Speaker did make a ruling on a point of order which was raised on Tuesday, 1st of July 2025 by Mr. Movita Anakoka, Member of Parliament for Luena constituency, on whether the House was in order to remain silent in light of the Constitutional Court's pronouncement declaring the constitution-making process as unconstitutional.
Okay. Then after that, there was urgent matters without notice that were raised. And this afternoon, we had three matters that were raised. The first one by Speaker Member of Parliament, a matter that was directed at the Leader of Government Business in the House. And this was on the deployment of army in areas where there is illegal mining. And the second one was also raised by Kamfinsa Member of Parliament, directed at the Vice President, who's the Leader of Government Business in the House, on a report on the deaths at Malata Gold Mine in Mumbwa District. So for these two matters, Madam Speaker said that these were not admissible in that she had already given permission to the Minister of Mines to make a ministerial statement tomorrow, or the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security to make a ministerial statement tomorrow on issues to do with illegal mining and what transpired in Northwestern Province. So she advised the members of Parliament to reserve the questions, to keep the questions and find out more from the Minister of Home Affairs when he makes in his ministerial statement. And then the last one that was raised was from Kamumbwe, Member of Parliament, a matter that was directed at the Minister of Agriculture, and this was on the Food Reserve Agency not buying maize in Kaumbwe since announcing the maize floor price. This matter was inadmissible, and the Member of Parliament was actually urged to file in a question.
Yes, indeed, after consideration of those agent matter without notice, the House did consider one question for oral answer understanding order 80. This was a question of ordinary nature, and it did come from Mr. Jonathan Daka, who is Chadiza Member of Parliament, and will be able to give you the details of the responses and as well as the questions during the course of business.
And then after consideration of those questions, there's a private member's motion that is currently on the floor of the House, and this is a motion that has been moved by Chiluvi, Member of Parliament, a motion to reintroduce debt swap for civil servants, and it was seconded by Kanchiria, Member of Parliament. Let me mention here that on the floor of the House, at the time business was being suspended, the Member of Parliament for Kalabo, Mr. Chingamute, had just completed contributing to debate on this particular motion, but we expect the House to continue with this. So for now, we'll leave you with we'll take a break. We'll be with you on the other side.